We are looking at a child's bedroom. It is Christmas Eve. The details are familiar, almost archetypal. There is a snow globe, a bed, a window looking out onto a quiet, snow-covered street. And there is a book, an encyclopedia. The boy opens it to a specific page, the one for the North Pole. The illustration is stark, scientific. It shows a barren, desolate landscape of ice and rock under a cold sun. The text is equally blunt. It describes air temperatures, ice thickness, the lack of permanent human settlement. It presents the North Pole as a geographical fact, a place of profound emptiness. There is no city, there is no workshop, there are no elves. This single image, presented without comment in the opening moments of the story, is our first and most important clue. Why would a film about the magic of believing in Santa Claus begin with such definitive empirical evidence that he cannot possibly exist? This is the central anomaly of the Polar Express. It is a contradiction planted at the very beginning, a dissonant note that hums beneath the entire narrative. The story immediately asks us to hold two completely opposing ideas in our minds at once: the cold, hard fact of a desolate Arctic and the impending arrival of a magical train to a mythical city. This isn't just a simple oversight, it is a deliberate choice. The investigation begins here. What we are examining is not a straightforward Christmas adventure. We are looking at a story that is fundamentally about the tension between what we are told is real and what we choose to believe. The film isn't about Santa. It's about the psychological crisis that occurs at the precise moment a child begins to suspect that the world is not as magical as they once thought. Before the train arrives, we are inside the boy's head. His narration is not one of joyful anticipation. It is filled with doubt. He speaks of his friends, of his own sister Sarah, and the slow, creeping disbelief that has begun to infect his world. He is listening for sleigh bells, but he tells us he is listening for something he was starting to think I'd never hear. The hope is already fading. The world of scientific facts, of encyclopedias and adult whispers is closing in. So when the ground trembles and a massive steam engine appears in the middle of his street, it is not arriving for a boy who believes. It is arriving for a boy who is on the absolute brink of not believing. The train is an intervention. It is a last-ditch effort, a fantastical dreamscape designed to confront this very specific crisis of faith. So let's look at the train itself. It is not just a mode of transport, it is a distinct space, a bubble of reality separate from both the mundane world of the boy's home and the magical destination of the North Pole. It is a transitional realm, a psychological proving ground. And the passengers on this train are not a random assortment of children. What we are seeing is a curated collection of archetypes, each representing a different facet of the central conflict, the struggle between belief and doubt. The train is a rolling microcosm of a child's inner world as it grapples with the loss of innocence. Each character is a reflection of a part of our hero boy's own fracturing certainty. First, we have the hero girl. She embodies pure, unwavering belief. She never questions the train, the destination, or the purpose of the journey. Her defining action is one of compassion and trust. She retrieves the lost ticket of the lonely boy, Billy, and she safeguards it. She is the anchor of faith in the story. When the conductor needs to demonstrate the importance of the ticket, it is her ticket that is used, punched with the words, "Believe." She represents the part of the hero boy that desperately wants to hold on, the memory of a simpler, more certain time when questions of proof were irrelevant. She is the voice of his younger self, a self he feels slipping away. Then we have the character, who is, in many ways, the boy's direct opposite and intellectual shadow, the know-it-all kid. This boy is a fascinating study in performative belief. He spouts facts about the train, its engine type, its braking system. He seems to be the most certain of anyone, but his certainty is brittle. It is based on memorized information, not on faith. Notice his language. He doesn't speak of magic, he speaks of specifications. He is attempting to control the magical experience by reducing it to a set of understandable, predictable rules. This is the defense mechanism of a mind terrified of the unknown. He represents the part of the hero boy that is armed with encyclopedia entries and scientific explanations, the part that is trying to rationalize the magic away even while participating in it. His constant talking is a mask for his deep-seated insecurity. He believes louder than anyone because deep down he believes the least. And finally, there is Billy, the lonely boy. He is the embodiment of lost hope. He is so far gone in his disbelief that he does not even wait for the train. He is found alone in his house, the last stop. He has to be coaxed aboard. He represents the potential outcome of the hero boy's current trajectory, complete isolation and the total abandonment of belief. He is what our protagonist will become if this intervention fails. His journey is one of slowly being brought back into the community of believers, primarily through the efforts of the hero girl. He is the cautionary tale, the ghost of Christmas future for a doubting heart. His silence and reluctance are more profound than the know-it-all's loud protestations. He has already given up. So what we're looking at is a train carrying 4 children who are not really separate individuals, but allegorical figures in a single mind's drama. The hero boy is the central consciousness, the ego, caught in the middle. The hero girl is his ED, the source of pure instinctual belief. The know-it-all is his superego, the internal critic armed with facts and rules, attempting to impose order. And Billy is the shadow, the potential for nihilistic despair. The entire journey of the train is the hero boy's internal struggle externalized. He is literally traveling with the different parts of his own psyche as he races toward a final confrontation with the source of his doubt. But the investigation deepens when we examine the journey itself. If this were a simple, joyful Christmas story, the ride to the North Pole would be magical and wondrous. It is not. The journey on the Polar Express is frequently strange, disorienting, and genuinely perilous. These are not the whimsical detours of a children's fantasy. They are moments of profound anxiety and existential threat, and they are crucial to understanding what is truly happening. These eerie interludes are the story's subconscious, bubbling to the surface. Let's first consider the golden ticket. On the surface, it is a simple pass for the ride, but watch what happens to it. It is a thing of immense power and fragility. It is constantly at risk of being lost. It flies out the window and embarks on its own impossible journey, interacting with wolves and eagles before finding its way back. This sequence is bizarre. It defies the logic of the narrative. What does it represent? The ticket is belief itself. It is a fragile, almost weightless thing that can be snatched away by the cold winds of doubt at any moment. The boy's desperate attempt to hold onto it, and its fantastical journey through a predatory natural world, is a metaphor for the struggle to maintain faith in a world that seems designed to tear it away. The world outside the train is not magical. It is wild and dangerous, just like the world of adult facts. Then there is the encounter with the car full of abandoned toys. This is one of the most unsettling scenes in the entire film. The children wander into a carriage filled with broken marionettes, discarded dolls with staring eyes, and forgotten playthings. It is a toy graveyard. A narrator's voice, a distorted, commercial-like voice, speaks from a clown toy, describing it as a place for broken, useless, and unwanted toys. In a story about the magic of Christmas toys, why include a scene of such profound sadness and waste? This car represents the fear of being forgotten, of becoming obsolete. It is the boy's anxiety about his own childhood. As he grows up, will the magical things he once loved be discarded like these broken puppets? The scene taps into the deep-seated fear that growing up means losing value, that the things that define you as a child are destined for the scrap heap. It is a moment of pure, uncanny dread that has no place in a simple holiday adventure. Now we must look at the figure on the roof of the train, the hobo. He is a ghost, a phantom who appears and disappears at will, existing in the liminal space between the warmth of the train and the freezing cold outside. He is a cynical, world-weary character. He drinks coffee made from snow, questions the boy's belief, and speaks of the train as a roller coaster and a screamer. He calls himself the King of the North Pole. He is the spirit of doubt personified. He is the voice in the boy's head that whispers, "This is all a trick. It isn't real." He constantly challenges the boy, forcing him to confront the physical dangers of the journey, making him question the conductor's authority and the very existence of Santa. He is the ultimate skeptic, a manifestation of the scientific, rational world that the boy is beginning to accept. He is the ghost in the machine, the nagging voice of reason in a world of impossible magic. The physical journey of the train echoes this internal struggle. It is not a smooth ride. The train faces a herd of caribou blocking the tracks. It plunges down an impossibly steep grade, becoming a literal roller coaster of terror. And most significantly, it skids across a frozen lake where the ice is cracking beneath it. During this sequence, the conductor and the children are desperately trying to guide the train back to the tracks using a cotter pin from the throttle. The imagery is potent. They are on thin ice, literally. Their belief, their entire journey, is moments away from plunging into the freezing, dark water of reality. The cracking ice is the boy's crumbling certainty. The frantic effort to get back on track is the desperate mental work required to keep believing when the evidence of danger and collapse is all around you. These sequences, the lost ticket, the abandoned toys, the cynical hobo, the perilous journey, they are not filler. They are the core of the story's psychological drama. They reveal that the journey to belief is not easy or pleasant. It is a harrowing ordeal. It is fraught with danger, anxiety, and the constant threat of failure. The story is telling us that as we get older, maintaining a sense of wonder is not a passive state. It is an active, often terrifying struggle against the encroaching forces of disillusionment. The eerie feeling of the film comes from this dissonance. We are presented with the cheerful visuals of a Christmas special, but we are experiencing the emotional beats of a psychological thriller. When the train finally arrives at the North Pole, we should be entering the heart of the magic. But what we find is something else entirely. The North Pole is not a whimsical, cozy village. It is a massive, sprawling, industrial city. It has the architectural feel of a 19th century factory town with towering brick buildings, smokestacks, and a complex network of railways and pneumatic tubes. The central square is vast and intimidating, dwarfing the children who stand in it. This is not the gentle, handmade world of folklore. This is the North Pole as a corporation, a massive logistical operation. Let's examine the elves. They are not the charming, diminutive craftspeople of traditional lore. When we first see them, they are a paramilitary force. They rappel from airships in perfect formation, moving with the precision of a special operations unit. They are dressed in uniforms and function with a rigid, hierarchical discipline. They are the security, the the logistics, the workforce of a massive, high-stakes enterprise. Their job is not just to make toys, it is to manage the overwhelming complexity of the operation. This militaristic and industrial portrayal of the elves is a critical piece of evidence. It suggests that the magic of Christmas, as the boy is now experiencing it, is not an effortless, natural phenomenon. It is something that requires immense effort, organisation, and control to maintain. It's an illusion that must be carefully and forcefully managed. We see this most clearly in the control centre, where elves monitor a giant global map, tracking naughty and nice percentages. It looks less like a magical workshop and more like a command centre at NORAD. The entire enterprise is data-driven. Belief is tracked with statistics. The magic has been quantified and systematized. Furthermore, we see a scene where a team of elves is dealing with a re-gifting issue, retrieving a toy from the pneumatic tube system. This small detail speaks volumes. It introduces concepts of waste, error, and correction into what should be a perfect system. It demystifies the process. The North Pole, in this telling, is not infallible. It is a factory with quality control problems, a bureaucracy that has to manage complex logistics. What does this industrialization of magic signify? It reflects the boy's changing perception of the world. As a young child, Christmas magic is simple and pure. A gift appears under the tree, and it is accepted without question. But as doubt creeps in, the mind requires a more complex explanation. A simple sleigh can no longer account for the sheer scale of the operation. So, his mind constructs a North Pole that can withstand logical scrutiny. It has to be a factory. It has to have a massive workforce. It has to have a sophisticated delivery system. The dreamscape he has entered is creating a version of the North Pole that is plausible enough for his skeptical mind to accept. The magic is being shored up with the logic of industry and organisation, because simple faith is no longer enough. The grandeur of the city is a testament not to the power of magic, but to the immense effort required to sustain it in the face of doubt. The climax of the story is not the receiving of a grand toy or a spectacular gift. It is a moment of pure perception. A single sleigh bell falls from Santa's sleigh. The hero boy picks it up. He shakes it, but hears nothing. It is silent. This is the moment of crisis made manifest. His doubt has rendered the magic inert. Santa Claus stands before him and tells him, "The bell is a wonderful symbol of the spirit of Christmas, as am I. Just remember, the true spirit of Christmas lies in your heart." He is being told that the magic is not an external reality, but an internal one. It is a choice. The boy closes his eyes, says to himself, "I believe," and shakes the bell again. This time, he hears it. And through his eyes, we see the reflection in the bell change from a muted, distorted image of himself to a bright, clear image of Santa he has chosen to believe. But the story's true, poignant meaning is revealed in what happens next. Santa offers him any gift he desires, and he chooses the bell. Not a toy, not an adventure, but the very instrument of his restored faith. He chooses the proof. This is a subtle but profound shift. A younger child would not need proof. They would ask for a fire engine or a doll. The boy's choice reveals that his belief is now a conscious, deliberate act. He needs a totem, a physical object to remind him of the choice he made. His faith is no longer innate. It is now something that must be maintained and remembered. The final lines of the story, both in the book and the film, are the key to the entire investigation. The boy returns home. On Christmas morning, he discovers he has lost the bell, a devastating symbol that his newfound belief was perhaps just a fleeting dream. But then his sister finds a small package under the tree. Inside is the bell, with a note from Santa. The magic is confirmed to be real, at least for now. But then comes the epilogue, the narration that reframes everything. The boy tells us that for a time, His parents and his sister, Sarah, could hear the bell. But as the years passed, the bell fell silent for them. His friends could no longer hear its sweet sound. He says, "Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe." This is the heart of the matter. The story does not end with a universal, triumphant confirmation of magic for everyone. It ends with the quiet, personal, and exceptional nature of the boy's belief. The loss of innocence, the fading of that magical perception is presented as the norm. It is the inevitable fate of his friends, his parents, even his own sister. They all grow up, and the world of scientific facts and adult responsibilities silences the bell for them. The story is not celebrating a victory for belief in general. It is chronicling a specific personal victory against an inevitable tide of disillusionment that claims almost everyone else. The eerie, melancholic feeling that lingers after the story is over comes from this truth. The Polar Express is not a story about how everyone gets to keep believing. It is a story about how almost everyone stops. The boy is the exception that proves the rule. We are witnessing a ghost story, but the ghost is not the hobo on the train. The ghost is the boy's own childhood, a fleeting spirit that he manages to capture in the sound of a small silver bell, while everyone around him slowly goes deaf to its music. The narrative is a beautiful, sad, and deeply resonant allegory for that specific painful moment when the world's magic begins to recede, and a child must decide whether to let it go or to fight to keep it alive within themselves. So, what have we uncovered on this journey? We started with a simple anomaly, an encyclopedia's depiction of a barren North Pole at the start of a magical story. Following that thread, we've moved through several layers of meaning. We saw that the train was not just a train, but a psychological space populated by archetypes of belief and doubt. We saw that the journey was not a joyous ride, but a perilous and anxiety-ridden ordeal, reflecting the internal struggle of a mind on the brink. We saw that the North Pole was not a whimsical village, but a massive industrial complex, a dreamscape constructed to be just plausible enough for a skeptical mind to accept. And finally, we saw that the climactic gift, the bell, was not a toy, but a symbol of a new kind of belief, a conscious choice rather than an innate certainty. The journey was the argument, each piece of evidence, from the character archetypes to the uncanny events to the industrial design of the North Pole, points toward the same conclusion. The Polar Express is not a story for young children who believe without question. It is a story for and about the child who is just beginning to question everything. It is a fantasy constructed around the architecture of doubt. It validates the anxiety and fear that come with the loss of childhood innocence, while offering a small, quiet hope that something of that magic can be preserved, but only through a deliberate and personal act of faith. It acknowledges that for most people, the bell will eventually fall silent. This reframes our entire understanding of the story. It is not simply a comforting holiday classic. It is a deeply melancholic and psychologically astute examination of a pivotal moment in human development. The strangeness, the uncanny valley animation that so many people comment on, the moments of genuine peril, these are not flaws. They are essential to the story's deeper meaning. They capture the disorienting and frightening nature of seeing the world you thought you knew begin to dissolve, replaced by something more complex, more dangerous, and less magical. It's a dream logic narrative, and like any dream, it is filled with symbols and anxieties that speak a truth the conscious mind is not yet ready to articulate. The broader implication is that we often mistake stories about childhood for simple stories. The Polar Express belongs to a tradition of children's literature that deals with profound, often difficult themes: loss, change, and the passage of time. It uses the language of fantasy not to escape reality, but to explore it more deeply. The story gives a name and a shape to a feeling that every person who has ever grown up has experienced. The quiet heartbreak of realizing that some doors, once closed, can never be opened again. The sound of the bell is the memory of the earlier, more magical world. So when you encounter the Polar Express now, you are not just looking at a story about a boy taking a train to see Santa Claus. You are looking at a masterful, dreamlike depiction of a cognitive shift. You are watching a mind in transition, grappling with the first great existential crisis of its life. The story's gentle, snowy aesthetic is a beautiful and fragile container for a much more turbulent and universal human experience. The moment we realize that seeing is not believing, but that believing is and always will be a choice that becomes harder to make with each passing year as the silence where a bell once rang grows ever more profound.